Welcome to Cat Recaps, where I help you catch up on the latest episodes of Skeem Saam, 22nd September 2025. Shay walked into the room where Paxton was sitting and greeted him with a cheerful surprise. But Paxton's reaction wasn't what she expected at all. Disappointed, Shay said, "What are you doing here?" "That's not the reaction I was hoping for. I worked too hard twisting Togi's arm for your address, only for you to say..." Paxton cut her off, asking, "What are you doing here?" Then added, "Wait, Shay, why are you here?" Shay explained she came to see him after finishing a short course at Turf University. But Paxton coldly told her, "You're not supposed to be here." When Shay asked if he was happy to see her, Paxton brushed her off with, "Shay, make sure the door doesn't hit you on your way out. I've got things I need to do." As Shay walked out, Melita and Paxton's dad walked in. Melita snapped, "Paxton, why so rude?" And his dad echoed the question. Shocked, Paxton's dad exclaimed, "No way, what's she doing here?" Leaving the tension high. Meanwhile, over at the restaurant, things started to heat up between Kat and Bra Boykie. Boykie welcomed him to the big league, but quickly raised concerns about meeting deadlines with Heritage Day around the corner. Kat explained it wasn't about deadlines, but timing, pointing out the 150,000 Rand buffet budget. Boykie called him modest and revealed VIP catering could easily double that to 300,000 Rand. Excited, Kat offered him a free espresso and promised a top-class presentation, with Boykie hinting there'd be proper thanks later. Pretty walked in smiling and greeted him warmly. She said she missed his family, and Lehesa agreed, saying they were amazing for letting her return to work. He joked about legal issues to lighten the mood and promised not to disappoint her again. Pretty then brought up the antenuptial agreement from Advocate Moss, and Lehasa confirmed it was signed and sent off. They exchanged "I love yous" and hugged. In the restaurant kitchen, workers were buzzing about the mayor's arrival. The chef motivated them with promises of double pay and a Heritage Day bonus. After they went back to work, he called Mapitsi over for a tasting, hoping it would spark their next book. At the police office, Peterson arrived with a box of files from the Eastern Cape. TP remembered the witness and vowed to uncover everything about Kwesi, declaring, "I'm going to find out everything she and Kwesi have done, and they're going down." Peterson welcomed back his passion, and TP smiled, saying, "Welcome back, Sarge." Elsewhere, Thabo and Kwaito clashed over an ad that Kwaito said was a waste of money. He accused Bra Boykie of corruption and even mentioned a threatening video. Thabo defended himself, but Kwaito pushed back, saying not everyone was corrupt. Thabo hit back that they all benefited from the business anyway. Kwaito thought about it as Thabo left. At the bar, Francois chatted with Kwesi about not sleeping and kids having too much sugar. In the cafe, Peterson confronted Kwesi, accusing her of using him to help Nkosi with legal issues. She denied knowing anything about the Eastern Cape case, but Peterson insisted Nkosi had confessed. Kwesi snapped and called him a vampire, then regretted falling for it after he stormed off. Back at the restaurant, Mapitsi praised Kat's food as they waited for the mayor's group, who showed up late. Boykie complimented the setup, and Kat served heritage-inspired dishes, quietly watching them enjoy the meal. At home, Mantuli and Rebecca chatted about the Maposas. Mantuli was surprised by their humility, and Rebecca admitted she liked them. But things quickly turned when Mantuli warned her against bad-mouthing, sparking an argument about past struggles and family duties. Kwaito came in to say the car was ready, and they left after a short chat about Lizzie. Later, in the dining area, one of Boykie's associates praised Kat's cooking, even joking about his wife. After they left, Boykie questioned why Mapitsi was there, but Kat explained she was just a friend. When Mapitsi heard the tender news, she hugged Kat, and they celebrated. Meanwhile, Paxton had a meltdown in his wheelchair, upset about being treated like he was invisible. Shay confronted him, repeated his words back, and told him how disappointed she was before walking out. In another office, a man spoke to an administrator about job creation and tenders, encouraging hard work for future opportunities. At Kwezi's office, she met with Corbus to sign some documents and spoke about moving on from legal fights. Nkosi walked in wearing a bulletproof vest, and Kwezi warned him that Peterson was digging into the Eastern Cape case. Nkosi reassured her that he'd handle it. Finally, back at the restaurant, Kat and Boykie wrapped up by discussing money. Bra Boykie instructed him to split 250,000 rand into different accounts, making sure both of them would benefit when future municipal budgets rolled in. 23rd September 2025. Paxton was sitting in his wheelchair, looking down when Melita came over and said, "I didn't know you could daydream. What's eating you?" Paxton brought his hand to his mouth, thoughtful, and replied, "It's Shay. I messed things up with her." Melita nodded sympathetically. "I hear you. That girl loves you, son," she added. "No woman travels across provinces if she doesn't love you." Paxton looked at her, then down again, and said, "Think about it. The past is the past. I don't love her like that." Leaning forward, Melita put her hands on the table and told him, "I think you should speak to someone about this. Maybe Tobani, because I know that girl loves you. And my question for you is, do you still love her?" Paxton looked away, and after Melita walked off, he picked up his phone, looked at the screen, and dialed Shay, a clear sign of his inner conflict. Meanwhile, things were heating up for Kat. Bra Boykie confronted her, saying, "You're new to this business, so I'll give you another chance." Kat replied, "All that food prep and too much information in one day, I understand." Bra Boykie pressed her, asking, "Don't you want growth and independence?" To which Kat cautiously responded, "As long as it's legal." Kwaito said. Bra Boykie then challenged her pride, asking, "Aren't you tired of being the loser against the Mapula boys?" But Kat insisted, "No, I'm not a loser." He painted a grand picture for her, telling her to think bigger. "Think big. Imagine catering for the parliament," he said, dangling a life-changing opportunity. The State of the Nation address, 200,000 rand, a gig. He emphasized how this tender could allow her to buy a house or even buy out her business partner. Inside the restaurant, Kat played coy, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." But Bra Boykie clarified the requirements, offering to cover the deposit himself. Ultimately, Kat's ambition won out as she decided, "I'm going to go to the parliament. I'm going to travel." Back at home, Pretty was on the phone with Pumpkin, catching up. "Pumpkin, the past 2 weeks have been hectic. I'm glad the lobola is done," she said. Meanwhile, Clement was on another line, mentioning the quiet house and their uncle's late return, asking why she hadn't returned to Joburg. Pretty explained she was giving him and his husband time to bond before returning on Friday. The conversation then turned to surnames, with Pretty musing, "So tell me, what do you think of Pretty Mafosa? Are you dropping the Sekamela name? I can use a double-barreled surname." She pondered the different combinations before ending the call. After hanging up, she stood up and said to herself, "Double-barreled surname? Pretty Mafosa has a beautiful ring to it." She walked over to Lehasa, who was wrapping up a call of his own. He told her he was meeting Cobus, said goodbye, and watched her leave with a thoughtful sigh. Over at the restaurant, Kat and Bra Boykie had another meeting where he leaned in and repeated instructions about the deposit, insisting she wouldn't have to pay. The conversation became increasingly circular and intense, with Kat growing suspicious and repeatedly asking, "What's wrong with you?" as Bra Boykie emphatically talked about maintaining a lifestyle before finally walking away, leaving Kat visibly unsettled. Things start to heat up professionally for Pretty at the cafe. Her boss told her, "I think you should lead the cross-examination." Pretty asked, "Are you sure, sir?" and he affirmed, "Absolutely, you're ready." As they discussed her preparation, Nkosi approached. "Mrs. Maposa, Kobus, we meet again," he said. Pretty responded, "Yes, Nkosi," and he commented on her ubiquitous presence, which she attributed to business. Her boss intervened rudely, sending Nkosi away. After he left, Pretty apologized, remarking, "That man rubs me the wrong way." When her boss asked if it was because Nkosi called her Mrs. Maposa, Pretty revealed her plans to make it official, saying, "I'm going to Home Affairs later. I'm thinking of changing my surname, maybe getting a double barrel." Meanwhile, tension was brewing at home for Mapitsi. Mapitsi was on the phone with Fense about a cookbook photo shoot for Heritage Day when Thabo questioned her about attending the event. Mapitsi explained she didn't want to ruin Kat's chances with Bra Boyki by being there, revealing that Kat had already gotten the tender. Thabo accused her of not trusting him around other people, leading to a heated argument where Mapitsi defensively revealed she still slept in Rat's room. The confrontation escalated with frantic gestures and accusations until Thabo crossed his arms and walked away, leaving Mapitsi sighing in frustration. In a more positive interaction, Mantuli praised Nora for her designs, mentioning how everyone in Bloemfontein was asking about them. She handed over a generous balance payment from Pretty, explaining it was double because the clothes were great. Nora, emotional, shared her struggles after a fire destroyed her sewing machine. Mantuli encouraged her, saying, "Trouble doesn't last forever. Keep up the great work you're doing, Nora," before Nora resolved to call and thank Pretty directly. Back to the ongoing tender drama, Katz received a call congratulating him on winning a big tender with a short turnaround. He joked about not paying any brown envelopes, but left it off, though he was left thoughtful after the call, muttering. Meanwhile, things took a tender turn between Paxton and his ex Shay. In the kitchen, with Melita present, an initially awkward encounter softened. Paxton apologized for his past behavior, and Shay admitted, "I miss this." Paxton asked if she missed him, and she called him cute, noting he was the only person treating her like normal. She affirmed her attraction to him, wheelchair or not, showing a clear rekindling of affection before Paxton's dad arrived, and Shay left with a promise to see him soon. Back to the tender plot, the situation soured dramatically for Kat. Bra Boyki informed her, "Unfortunately, you didn't get the tender." Kat was shocked, reminding him of their previous conversations and the money she had spent. When she revealed she was prepared to deposit money into his account as asked, Bra Boyki feigned ignorance, denying everything and claiming the municipality rejected her for failing to deliver. Kat accused him of wanting a bribe, leading Bra Boyki to furiously fire her before storming out, leaving Kat to type frantically on her phone, likely plotting her next move. Over at the shop, Salamina was helping Charlie when Nora arrived, concerned about Salamina working while unwell. They discussed going into business together. Capitalizing on the success of the dresses Nora embroidered, the conversation was cut short. Finally, the conflict came to a head between Kat, Thabo and Kwaito in the restaurant. Kwaito congratulated Thabo on the tender, but Kat revealed the devastating truth. "So I didn't get the tender." He angrily accused them of paying bribes for their own success, referencing a past dam project, and complained that he lost 35,000 rand loss. Thabo and Kwaito defended themselves, demanding proof, but Kat vowed to expose Bra Boyki, declaring, "I'll show you. Don't worry, I'll show you, and I don't care who goes down with him," setting the stage for a major confrontation. 24th September 2025, Thabo stands up and says, "Hey, you'll do no such thing, okay? We won't go down because you can't secure a deal." Kwaito tells Kat, "Brother, look, don't listen to him." But Kat asks, "You pay bribes to secure deals?" Thabo fires back, "Kat, you think you're so naive? You think you can get a tender together without making a deal? Kwaito tries to intervene, saying, "Brother, stop it. Look, don't listen to him." And Tabo explains that he tried to keep Kat out of shady deals, with Kwaito adding that he was threatened about his family. Tabo dismisses this, saying, "Kwaito, my friend, I really don't care." So Kat responds, "This must come out. Tabo, why are you being so stubborn?" Kwaito asks why Tabo didn't listen to warnings and acts like a kid, but Tabo insists they have families to support. Kat says he has a family too and declares, "I think I've heard enough. Please leave. Forget it." Then calls security. When Tabo argues about reputations, Kat says, "You're kicking out your friends? Really?" and adds that he's disappointed, ordering them out. Security escorts them away as Kwaito sighs, "Kai." Meanwhile, things start to heat up between Paxton and his dad. Inside, Paxton is on the phone when his dad comes in dancing. Paxton says, "What?" Then he asks Shay, "Am I ever going to win?" He laughs and tells her, "Wait, let me call you back," and ends the call saying, "I have something to sort out. Cheers." After Paxton hangs up, his dad stops dancing and says, "It was that girl Shay, wasn't it?" He asks what she wants from Paxton, pointing out that with all the schools in Johannesburg, she chose to come to Turf, and he doesn't know why. He adds, "It's clear that she wants to get back together with you," and says that will mess up Paxton's schoolwork since grade 11 is important. Back at the shop, a Heritage Day celebration sets the scene. Customers in colorful dresses exchange orange juice while wishing each other Happy Heritage Day. And Letetswe calls over his cousin to ask, "Today, people are braaiing and going places. What's our plan?" His cousin suggests they chill and play pool. But when Alfred walks in, he insists that's not what Heritage Day is for, arguing that mindset is why culture is being lost. Letetswe's cousin points out it's a holiday to relax, but Alfred sits down and explains, a man can now legally take his wife's surname after marriage. Shocking Letetswe, who says, "Wait, what?" His cousin mentions hearing about it online, but Alfred fumes that their ancestors are turning in their graves and urges them to attend the chief's event at the stadium. When the cousin asks if there's free food, Letetswe teases him for always thinking about it, and Alfred confirms it's free food, which excites the cousin who cheers. "Free food, cuz?" "It's free food." The tension from Kat's office carries over to Tabo's home. Tabo enters the room and knocks on the door, saying to Kwaito, "Brother, I barely slept a wink." Kwaito opens the door and asks, "Did you try to call him?" Tabo replies, "Yes, but he won't take my calls." And Kwaito looks concerned, saying, "Yours?" Tabo confirms, "Yes, he won't take mine either." Kwaito gestures and explains, "Kat, that I drove all the way to Coco Manisha's house and he refused to open the door." Tabo responds, "It's Bra Boyki who's at fault here. Why did he take that tender away from Kati?" But Kwaito warns, "We should be concerned about ourselves. If Kat reports Bra Boyki, we'll be in trouble," leading Tabo to retort, "You should have thought about that before getting us into this mess." Just then, Mantuli enters and asks, "What's all this noise about?" Tabo says, "Nothing, Mama," but Mantuli insists, "I heard you mention Kat's name." Kwaito chimes in, "So is it true that he wants to do business with Salamana?" Mantuli requests, "With all due respect, can we have some space?" Which makes Tabo defensive as he says, "Really? Space? In whose house?" Mantuli pleads, "Please, don't." But Tabo interrupts, "This is my house. No one will tell me they need space here." Clement enters and shouts, "Go ask for space in your own house. And now, why are you fighting?" Mantuli explains she wants to return to Joburg because everyone is toxic and always fighting. And Clement agrees, adding that he hates living there due to the lack of privacy. Later, in the shop, Letetswe's cousin starts by saying, "Hey guys, what's up?" And Letetswe replies, "Not much, just hanging out," while Paxton asks, "So how's everything going?" leading to casual chat. The cousin then remarks, "That doesn't look like the face of a guy who's dating a hot girl," prompting Letetswe to ask, "What do you mean?" and Paxton to deny it with, "Who said Shay and I were dating?" Letetswe insists, "You're single, and I saw how you looked at her." But Paxton brings up his wheelchair saying, "What girl would date date a guy in a wheelchair, and adding, I won't be able to fulfill some of her expectations, which Letetswe questions with, such as, before Paxton cuts in with, no. As the discussion continues, Letetswe's phone rings, and he says, it's my mom, sorry, before leaving. The cousin suggests, maybe we can go to that Heritage Day event, but Paxton declines with, no thanks, I'm not in the mood, and they all exchange goodbyes like, see you later, as the scene ends. Meanwhile, Kwesi comes into the office, where Nkosi is sitting at his desk, handing him a coffee. They briefly discuss a potential helicopter sale, with both expressing distrust of the sellers. Nkosi shares that regulatory contacts are happy with his plans to include tracking in the security industry. Kwesi suggests testing helicopters from 2 sellers before deciding. The conversation shifts to flying, where they reminisce about their forgotten dreams of becoming pilots and tentatively agree to help each other realize them. However, Kwesi steers the topic back to Peterson, and Nkosi confidently assures her that his associates have silenced a witness cleanly, insisting Peterson will find nothing, no matter how hard he digs. Over at the restaurant, tensions flare at the counter. The waiter aggressively questions Mapitsi about event bonuses, leading Kat to intervene. Kat then informs Mapitsi he arranged for Fancy to take photos with her at the municipal office. Mapitsi reveals she lost the tender, shocking Kat. At a table, she accuses Bra Boyki of demanding a bribe to help Kat steal council money. When Mapitsi threatens to report it on Beryl FM, Kat warns that Thabo and Kwaito would be implicated too, as Bra Boyki involved them. Mapitsi concludes that Kat is a corruption beneficiary who might face arrest, leaving him stunned by the realization. In a separate room, Mantuli confronts Charlie in expressing distress about money issues with Salamina present. Charlie reads a cryptic, emotional passage from his notebook, causing Mantuli to react with disbelief and argue fiercely. Salamina tries to mediate, but Mantuli storms off, declaring nothing can change Charlie, while Salamina looks back sadly. Back at the house, Thabo, Kwaito, and Braboyki confront each other in the kitchen. Thabo demands to know why Braboyki took the tender from Kat, accusing him of being useless. Braboyki deflects, but Thabo reveals they have a recording of him. After tense exchanges, Braboyki reluctantly agrees to something, and Thabo and Kwaito leave as Braboyki stares ominously at the camera. Meanwhile, Kat grapples with the escalating situation alone. When Braboyki calls, Kat anxiously scrolls through contacts, leaving a cryptic message for Francois to go to his dad if anything happens. Determined but unsure, he tells a waiter he's leaving, internally questioning his destination. The drama continues as Shay visits Paxton's dad. He lies about Paxton's whereabouts, and when Shay challenges him, he angrily chases her away. Later, Paxton confronts his dad about controlling his life, especially regarding Shay and his missing mother, leading to a heated argument where Paxton demands autonomy. Kat's confrontation with Braboyki reaches a boiling point when they meet. Braboyki shames Kat for failing to deliver, but Kat accuses him of favoritism. Ziad arrives and confronts Kat for stealing work, leading to Kat accusing Braboyki and Ziad of money laundering. Braboyki threatens legal action and demands Kat's phone, but Kat refuses. Security escorts a yelling Kat out as Braboyki vows to sue. After the Heritage Day event, Letetswe and his cousin return, excitedly sharing their cultural experiences with Salamina. She reveals that Charlie left after arguing with Manuti, and the cousin suggests cheering him up by recounting the event. Finally, in the kitchen, Kat urgently asks Clement for information on Braboyki to expose him, but Clement refuses, citing life threats. Kat persists, planning to give the info to Fumeza. Kwaito interrupts, urging Kat to drop the plan, but Kat insists on pursuing the truth despite risks. Kwaito hints they might all have to move to Joburg, leaving the future uncertain. 25th of September 2025. At his restaurant, Kat is clearly nervous as he checks in with his staff. He asks one waiter, "Has Councillor Ramasimola been here?" and gets a no. He turns to another and says, "Tell me," who reassures him they're ready. Distracted, Kat says, "I need to make a call," and steps aside. He phones Francois, who answers worried. "What's going on?" Kat acts casual. "Nothing much, just checking in." But then his fear shows when he says, "If something bad happens to me, give my dad this voice note." Francois is shocked. "What? Why? Did someone threaten you?" Kat avoids the question and insists, "Just listen. I'll explain when it's safe." After hanging up, Kat goes back to the floor where the waiters assure him they're ready. Watching them, he notices how tense they are. One of them says, "Yeah, it's been a busy day," and Kat nods, trying to encourage them while hiding his own dread. At Paxton's house, things are tense. Paxton tells his parents, "Shay and I had fun yesterday." His mom, Melita, just says, "Nice." He adds, "We were at the clubhouse." His dad immediately jumps in. "So that's why you came home late? You think you can do as you like?" Paxton fires back, "So what? Must I tell you every time I see my friends like I'm 12? His dad says, "That's called respect." But Melita cuts in, "Sounds more like control." The fight builds when Paxton says, "Shay's coming to fetch me." His dad shouts, "And you're only telling me now? Let him go?" Paxton yells, "Leave me alone," before Melita pushes him out of the room. Alone with her husband, she tells him that's adolescence. He calls it young love. She agrees it's sweet, but he's worried. That girl is distracting him. Melita reminds him that last time they dated, Paxton's marks dropped. When her husband warns, "If he messes up again," she coldly says, "I'll kill her." He tells her not to say that, but she insists, leaving silence hanging. Over at Lahesha's place, Pretty suggests a hike for the weekend, but Lahesha sees she's uneasy and asks if she's fine. She brushes it off as work stuff, but he says he noticed she was restless and offers, "Should I sit in the gallery to support you?" Pretty quickly says no, there's no need. She admits court triggers her, especially with a certain prosecutor. Lehasa points out how fast she said no, asking if she really doesn't want him there. Pretty insists she doesn't, and Lehasa drops it, saying he's going to shower. She's left alone with her thoughts. With Kwaito and Clement, a serious chat unfolds. Kwaito asks, "What was that with Kat last night?" Clement dodges. Pretty's not the only one who's lied for love and friendship. Kwaito admits lying for Bra Boyki and himself. Clement asks, "Not details, but would you still lie for him?" He regrets not exposing him earlier and urges Kwaito to do it. Kwaito calls Bra Boyki bad news, saying his poison has spread everywhere and Kat can't see it. Clement defends Kat as a good guy who doesn't deserve this, but admits he's scared since Bra Boyki almost killed him, so he'll keep quiet. Kwaito says, "Back to Josie, I can't say the same for Kat." Clement admits, "That's what scares me the most." Meanwhile, in the library, Latetsui and her friends gossip about Paxton and Shay. Latetsui's cousin says Shay was dressed for a party, not school, and calls her full of herself. A friend teases Latetsui, asking if she's jealous of the Joburg baddie. Latetsui denies liking Paxton, but the talk shifts to Luatel, his ex. The cousin says Luatel dumped him, but the friend adds, still, she loved him. They all agree seeing him with Shay will hurt her, and Latetsui concludes, someone's hurting. In Nkosi's office, tension rises as Peterson walks in uninvited. Nkosi threatens, "Want me to throw you out myself?" Peterson says he just came to talk. Nkosi calls him an unethical cop, but Peterson says he looks up to better officers. The fight turns personal when Peterson accuses him, "This is about me stealing your woman, the woman of your dreams." Nkosi denies it, calls her a witch, and warns him that if he continues his crusade, he'll tell every precinct about him abusing his badge over heartbreak. Peterson coolly replies, "Exactly. Balls in your court." Nkosi leaves with, "Good to see you, Sergeant," and Peterson echoes sarcastically. Elsewhere, Bra Boyke's name comes up in another office. Thabo and Lieto meet Kwaito, who asks, "Why is he sending me cryptic messages about you?" Thabo wants to know what kind, and Kwaito says they're about the brothers getting out of line. It turns out Bra Boyke is upset that Thabo applied for a catering tender without him. Lieto confirms he's involved now. Kwaito recalls Bra Boyke wanted into tenders and needed an inside man. Thabo insists Kat isn't a crook, but Kwaito warns Bra Boyke's ambition is dangerous. They all worry, Thabo about their business, Kwaito about their names and assets, Lieto about losing everything. The heavy mood sends them apart, each shaken. Later at a cafe, things seem lighter for Pretty and Lehasa. Pretty smiles, "Everything's going well. Our arguments held." Lehasa adds, "The prosecutor tried to poke holes but failed." Francois brings their drinks and Pretty compliments him. "You look better than yesterday." Francois agrees, joking he and Kobus looked like we'd gone through war. After he leaves, Lehasa says the trial was tougher than Pretty let on. He admits he didn't sleep because the prosecutor kept calling him Mafosa, a name with a heavy past. Pretty asks why it bothered him, and Lehasa reveals, "I don't think I can take your surname." He explains the shame tied to his name. Pretty sighs that she needs time to think, which Lehasa accepts. Meanwhile, Bra Boyke celebrates with an associate, praising an event's food and performances. He asks, "Has everyone been paid?" and is happy with the answer. Talk shifts to the catering tender. The associate says procurement wants to use the same caterer as yesterday, but Bra Boyke steers him away, mentioning a chef from Capsies, but dismissing him as too small for the contract. The associate agrees, and they part on good terms, though Bra Boyke's motives are clear. At Kat's restaurant, he bumps into Ziad, who asks if he's there to gloat. Kat says, "I don't brag." Ziad gives business advice, but then warns, "You think the counselor gave you that tender for free? He owns you." A shocked Kat asks, "What?" Ziad adds, "I'm warning you. You don't know what you've gotten into." Back at Paxton's home, the fight continues. His dad finds him asleep in his wheelchair and accuses him of drinking after a late night. Paxton says he texted, but his dad says that's not enough. Melita steps in, saying Paxton isn't a child. Paxton storms off to his room, leaving Melita to tell her husband, "See what you've done to the boy, Obed." He looks lost. Elsewhere, Kwaito and Thabo meet with Bra Boyke himself. Bra Boyke thanks Kwaito for a heads up about someone playing hero. Thabo promises to keep the person in line, while Kwaito pleads for Bra Boyke to leave him alone. Boyke agrees. The meeting darkens when he says Lito is gearing up for war, leaving Thabo and Kwaito alarmed. Mantuli faces a personal crisis. While reading a memo on security upgrades, she tries to call someone. When she gets through, she hears shocking news. A stroke? How? Shaken, she says she's coming to KZN right away, clearly rattled about Bukumuzi's condition. Finally, at home, Kat opens up to Mapitsi. "I don't know what I've done. I think I lost the biggest chance of my life. He feels trapped. If I talk, I burn everyone. If I stay quiet, it feels wrong." Mapitsi reassures him, but he says, "The right thing won't pay bills. It won't build my future. I'm tired of losing." Mapitsi takes his hands and says, "I'm here for you," offering him comfort in his crisis. 26th September, Thabo says, "I insisted he sleep here while Kat is passed out on the couch." Mapitsi asks, "But what did he actually tell you last night?" And Pitsi adds, "You were kind of vague." Thabo says he'll fetch Kat's stuff, and Pitsi walks out. Mapitsi stays behind as Kat wakes up. Kat says, "I just passed out." Thabo greets him. "Hey, Kat." Kat says, "I have to go." Mapitsi insists, "No, stay for breakfast." Kat refuses. No, I'm fine. Mapitsi apologizes for the trouble and both she and Tabo check if Kat's really okay. Kat reassures them, I'm alright, Mapi. Thanks for letting me crash here. Mapitsi says, now my eyes are open. Kat says goodbye and leaves. After he's gone, Tabo admits, I'm scared he might do something reckless. Mapitsi pushes, but what did he tell you? Just as Pitsi comes back. Meanwhile, in another kitchen, Melita is having a tense talk with Paxton's dad. He notices she seems weighed down and she immediately brings up Shay, Paxton's new friend. I don't trust her. I just don't like her, Melita says. She explains Shay showed up out of nowhere, spends all her time with Pax, and she's noticed Pax slipping back into old habits. Arrogance, stubbornness. Paxton's dad thought they'd moved past that, but Melita says he's blind to a young man just trying to take control of his life. She suggests letting Pax live a little since Shay makes him happy, but the conversation is cut short by a phone call. At Lehasa's house, things heat up with Clement, but first we see Mantuli in the kitchen with Kwaito. She asks if Uncle Sifiso has updated him about Becky, and Kwaito confirms Becky's been admitted to the ER. Mantuli's upset that Kwaito is too tied up with work to help her understand a letter about new computer systems at the university. She feels like a burden. After Kwaito leaves, Clement walks in and Mantuli asks him to read the letter. It just says she has to attend mandatory computer training. That moment is broken when Mantuli gets a message. Uncle Becky is being moved to ICU. Clement is stunned, repeating, "What?" as Mantuli breaks the news. Tension spikes elsewhere when Kat storms into the mayor's office. "Mr. Mayor, you said it's urgent." "Hey, gentlemen, excuse us," he says, cutting through a meeting. He tells the men confidently, "We're going to deliver it." But Bra Boyke's associate looks doubtful. After a quick phone call, security is called in to remove Kat. "You again? Are you high?" one of them asks. Kat snaps back, "If you dare touch me, you'll answer to my father, Sergeant Peterson." He decides to leave himself, but mutters threats as he exits. Bra Boyke's associate warns, "Next time you'll be arrested, maybe by Peterson himself." Later, in a softer scene, Lhasa greets Pretty in the kitchen with, "Good morning, Pretty." She pours him coffee and he brings up her surname after marriage. Pretty tries to brush it off, but Lhasa points out she raised the issue. She apologizes for hurting him, saying she didn't mean it. Lhasa explains he'd never pressure her to change her name if it risked her career. They agree to decide together. Pretty admits she loved the sound of Mrs. Maposa since the day he proposed, and they share an "I love you." At the university library, Paxton and his friends are messing around. From his wheelchair, Pax teases Letetsui about a date and calls him and his cousin gossips. Two girls interrupt, accusing them of talking about them. After a short back and forth, the girls leave and the group laughs it off. Pax tries to steer the chat back to the alleged date. Back in the corporate world, Bra Boyke's associate waits in a meeting room until Boyke himself enters. The associate mentions shifting focus from Peterson to the other person and suggests setting up a meeting. Boyke agrees with, "That's the leadership," but then suddenly storms out, slamming the door. Over at a cafe, Peterson talks with a bartender about loyalty before Francois arrives. They're both worried about a friend. Francois reveals he got a voice note saying, "If anything bad happens to me, please go to my dad." Meanwhile, Nkosi tells Kwesi about a weekend booking and even a helicopter trip he's arranged for her daughter LJ. She's touched, but since LJ is with her dad, they postpone. Then the conversation darkens. Nkosi says, "I went to see Peterson," and admits he wanted to close the lid on the investigation. He asks Kwesi how far she's willing to go to keep it shut. "Far," she replies firmly. Nkosi nods. Good. Pressure mounts for Kat when he gets a frantic call from his father. His dad warns, "I looked into Ramasambule. He's bad news. If that recording is real, you're in deep." Kat insists he was just baiting Ramasambule, but his dad warns he could get implicated too. He begs Kat not to hand send the recording to anyone before consulting a lawyer. Kat argues that the mayor is waiting for it, but his dad insists he pack a bag and lie low. On a lighter note, Pax and Shay talk about their friendship. Pax feels like a charity case since Shay fetches him daily, but she laughs, saying she just enjoys hanging out. When Pax asks her to define what they are, she tells him to relax. They're just friends. Their chat is cut short when Pax's dad and Melita arrive. After they leave, Pax's dad orders him to apologize to a girl, but Pax flat out refuses, leading to a tense standoff. Later, Bra Boyke runs a meeting about caterer scoring. When someone asks if they should wait for latecomers, Boyke says no. An associate brings up a young caterer who was the favorite but didn't deliver. Boyke shuts it down, saying they need someone reliable, and ends the meeting. The emotional peak comes when Mantuli gets another heartbreaking call from her brother. "I've been worried sick since your message at lunch," she says. He explains Bakey's condition is critical, with brain bleeding, and he might not survive the weekend. "No, what are you telling me?" Mantuli cries. Kwaito rushes in, sees her pain, and takes charge. "Okay, go pack a bag. I'll do the same. We'll drive to Joburg," he says, adding that Clement will meet them at the station so they can all go say goodbye. The episode ends in a restaurant where Kat is confronted by Bra Boyke's associate and two others. "You bring me serious allegations and then disappear?" the associate says. Kat explains his father's fears, but the associate demands to hear the recording. After listening, the associate details shady money transfers, 250,000 rand and 100,000 rand. Kat sees this as the missing puzzle piece. "This is what I needed to start an investigation," he declares. He praises the associate's courage and vows. "Ramasimo and his cronies are going down. I won't let that crook become mayor of the people." They all nod, united as a storm brews ahead. That's all for today. Make sure to subscribe and I'll catch you in the next video.